We got talking.
We got talking.
All right. Now, we were just on a bit of a roll here. People love to judge, and people love to judge before they even try, and it's a defense mechanism. It's a coping strategy, right?
Yeah.
So, if they're judging someone else, then they can either feel better about themselves for where they're at, or it's a reason why they should or shouldn't do something. So if it vibes with them. But anyway, that we were talking about branding.
Yes, that's right, we were.
And we were saying like how much you've actually thought things through.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm lazy.
Yeah, it looks like you're lazy, but you're not, because you're a mastermind. That's phenomenal. And yeah, respect to you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And also thank you for recognizing that, and for me not having to explain it so deeply, because you're able to put together the dots. Like that's really affirming too.
Yeah.
Because you understand that industry a bit too.
Yeah. It's massive respect.
Thank you. So appreciated. So hello and welcome to the podcast. We have Kimon here. Kimon and I, we've only met a couple of times, and you've got an interest in podcasting as well. And we both have a shared interest in the evolution of humanity. And so the intention that I really had for having you on here is to just have a conversation. And we don't have to come to any conclusions. It's a curiosity to explore and unpack and see what might trigger us and what is kind of resonating. And as a curiosity for you to be able to chew on your mind with later.
Perfect. Well said.
Thank you. So with that in mind, what sparked your interest in the evolution of humanity?
Well, deep question from the start. I love it. I think for me it was always, it's just naturally in me to ask questions. I've always, since I was young, asked questions, some stupid, a lot of stupid questions, but that's okay too, right? That's how we learn. And I remember even through university, the professor would say, oh, you and your questions, are you? Kimon and his questions. So it was fun, like just being me, of being inquisitive and asking these deeper questions. It wasn't just silly, mundane, superficial questions. It was questions that actually struck the soul and made people think, and wouldn't normally ask those types of questions. So people always thought Kimon is the thinker in the group, the one that sort of reflects and philosophizes. And all my friendship circles and my work colleagues and everyone that I've been involved with has always said that. And they're surprised that I come from an engineering background. I chose that in the sort of 3D, which was because I was good at it, the science and the maths, and that's how I sort of got into engineering. Yeah. Very practical, and wanted to help with physical, building better infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hear all of that and I'm like, well, of course you're an engineer. Like if you're a deep thinker and you're trying to figure out how things work and how things can work out better, and you're asking expansive questions, which are getting people thinking and like really hitting to the heart of bridging soul to reality. I can see how engineering is like a physical form of that, because what you're doing is, it's almost like a type of engineering of the human experience. Yeah.
Wow. Well said. Yeah. So it is like that. For me, I never thought about it like that. It was just innate. So it just came through.
They usually are. Those epic gifts that we have are innate with us. So did you feel like your gift of questioning, was that like encouraged, or did you feel as though there was a trauma there to overcome for you to hold it even more?
Yeah, good question. I think it was, I think it was encouraged. There were moments where it wasn't maybe in the right place or setting. And I would always want to go there. So I wanted to bring bring someone there with me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it's not the right setting. So I grew up in an environment was, suburban Melbourne, and it was let's call it the run of the mill, like middle class, and yeah, it was fun. I had a good childhood. It was sort of everything that I needed. I had, but yeah, it wasn't like extraordinary. So for me to be this like profound impact, at that age, no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't until later where I started really opening up of who I was and nurturing my own self, because I realized that this is a journey of the self. It's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And we are embarking. We're our own leader. We're our own decision maker of where we want to take our lives. So we can stay in that rat race, in that sort of middle ground, where it's comfortable, where we have all the things that we need. But if we really want to shift and shake and be something of ourselves, that's what I've always thought, like you're your own. That was a realization I had later in my 20s. Big shift for me was like, 20, I think it was 25, coming out of sort of that. It was an apex point. It was like my upbringing was very conditioning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then had to be sort of
yes.
You know what I mean? More than me.
Well, we each have our own. Like that's the point. Hey, it's personally, it's so personalized, your own life and your own journey. It's like absolutely perfect for you.
For me, exactly. Yeah, well said. So and then for me, it was just growing through more, I'd say, more pressures, which is ultimately self-inflicted, but pressures from society, pressures from family and from cultural identity, where I'm from, like socioeconomically. I needed to get a job. I needed go to uni, did the uni thing. At least I did something that resonated with me at the time. Still does, but sort of dropping away. And then, doing the university and getting into engineering and construction and that sort of thing, got to a point where I was like, and I had a very structured life. I had a girlfriend for a long time, which would have been marriage, would have been the building blocks were forming to create that sort of structured life that we think of.
Which is ultimately what I lived.
Which is what you lived.
Yeah. So you were able to opt out.
I opted out. I opted out before it happened. I saw this vision of what I would look like or what I would feel like in the future, like 10 years future. And I had to break it off. I had to break off my relationship. I had to break off my work. Work is a funny story.
I'd love to hear that, because I know a lot of people who ask, like, they're like, how did you just tap out?
Yeah.
It's like, well.
But funny thing was I had my resignation letter in my back pocket. I'd written it the night before. And it was a comfortable job. I was like walking distance from my work at the time. I was doing some level crossing upgrades, trains. And it was perfect. My dad was ill at the time, so it was good for me to be home. But I had enough. My soul was not in it anymore.
Yes.
And I just had written my resignation letter. And in that, I get a tap on the shoulder, actually, like at my desk. Kimon, can you come with us into the room? And I think it was one other person with him. It was the project director. We went into the office, and he sat me down. He's like, look, we're going through some hard times with the company sort of future of projects. And we don't have anything available, and we're going to have to make you redundant.
You got to pay.
I got a payout, and I had in my back pocket, I had this massive smile on my face. No, it wasn't on my face. I had to pretend.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No,
It was-
got to play along.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was inside. I was just gleaming with joy. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. And a friend of mine said, I'm like, I wanted to leave. Like, I was thinking about this a long time ago. So it was like, why don't you just imagine that, because she got a payout like a year or two before that. And she goes, just think about it and it will happen. And then just believe it and it will happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what she meant at the time. I didn't know so much about manifestation.
Amazing.
And it did for me. It happened because I just believed it so. And then my soul was with it. Yeah. It was something that I already intended. I had my resignation letter in my hand. Yeah. And I didn't show it to him.
Spectacular.
So I was, and then I got home. I was just like, yes.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That was a funny story.
Yeah. I love hearing stories, and I've heard quite a few of people who come to their awakening gently. Like, I wouldn't say mine was gentle. There was a lot that was in me that I was still fighting to stay on what I thought was the right path, because it was so fixed and there was a clear trajectory, but it wasn't working that way. And for you to be able to sort of feel into those senses and validate yourself enough to go, no, there is more. My soul's calling. Something's calling me. I've got to listen. And for me to run that down to the ground to, I now have adrenal fatigue and my body physically can't give more, and realizing that we both had different tolerances. Like, you were willing to put up with less of the BS than I was. I was willing to put up with so much BS.
Wow, respect to you, man.
Well, but not really. Not really, because that was the conditioning. It was almost like martyrdistic. The more you give of yourself, the more of salvation you'll receive. Right?
And so that's how you grew up.
That's how I grew up.
So it's interesting. Is it something that the Mormon background, they know this of how to mold someone into being, and how, because the deeper you go, the more rigid and the stronger the base is. Yeah. And you can use it to serve. It's great.
Totally.
But it can go the other way too. Right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I've noticed. The systems that don't have agility and the individual's personal growth and journey in mind, I would call that, like, I've recently come across agile management.
Agile management, yeah.
What the heck? That is brilliant. Like, kind of from the ground up, which makes sense because the ground is where it's impacted. Yeah. So why would you not have a look at what's going on the ground level instead of up the hierarchy a little bit and start working with these people who are on the ground? So I kind of liken that a little bit to the human experience. Why don't we actually viscerally ground back into what our actual experience is, what our physical body is saying, what all the feedback, the quantum feedback is, and start to create our own set of new beliefs based on what we are actually experiencing.
Wow. You've got a really intelligent mind.
I do. I've created a lot of space in my life to contemplate. Yeah. And it's the sitting with contemplations and witnessing my body's reactions to those perspectives and things, and then neutralizing my nervous system to each of them. And that goes down all the spectrums, right? The dark, the witnessing of the things that you just definitely do not want to experience, and the opening to the things that you're so terrified might be so beautiful that you could possibly lose them, and then you've experienced it and you can't keep it. Terrifying.
Hugely.
Right? And it's those extremes that actually hold us closed as humans and don't expand us into the amazing capacity that a fully operational human being could actually be on the ground level, as, changing the world. What would that look like in 10, 5, 1 year? You know what I mean? Like, it's as simple as here and now.
It's always here and now.
Always here and now. Did I just get off topic on something?
No, I think you sparked a new topic.
Beautiful. Love that thought.
Yeah. I think of how you can shift from that sort of victimhood self, and it's necessary. It's necessary to go through it. It's necessary to go through the self. Firstly, victimhood. You know, basically beating yourself up to the point where that you have to find what it is that still is shining within, and realizing that that's not going to, that once you have to go there, but then realizing it's not creative anymore. Like I can't create from that space. I can't be, it's not life. It's like, I need to shift. I need to bring myself back into presence. Back into, and that's where life is in the present moment. And then once you shift, then the momentum comes with it, the feelings, the emotions of hope and of new beginnings and of growth start to come. And, you know, you start resonating differently. Your body lightens, you know, that when you go back to where those dark things come from, it's a heavier energy.
It is.
You know? Your body actually feels lighter. You start to want to explore. You start to, you know, exercise or move your body, movement.
Because it's fun. And one thing that I learned through my kinesiology studies is any movement that you don't enjoy, there's something blocking a balance in you, because movement's supposed to be fundamentally enjoyable. You know, you think of the fluidity of dance, you know, and all those sort of the forms of self-expression that no one else can move their body like the way that you can. You know, and that sort of thing. And I kind of think the ability to go all the way down and all the way to the dark place, it's almost like breaking through the illusion of darkness too. Because all of it's an illusion as much as it's also real and happening. It's just an experience in a moment. And remembering past things to be able to transmute them through the dark, it's almost like a pulling out of the weeds so that there's fresh space in the garden, and something will grow there. Something is always on the other side of that dark, that you won't fall down forever.
No.
It's 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Like 90 seconds to transmute the heaviness of the actual feeling through your nervous system. If you just deeply surrender to the eternity as though there will never be another feeling.
Interesting.
So you play with time with it, with your body, because your body can. Your body can play with time. We remember these past things. The body remembers it nervously. You hear someone's voice, you smell a smell, your body's triggered back into the thing, and all of a sudden you're a 5-year-old reacting like you're a 40-year-old acting like a 5-year-old. You know, that's what trauma, that's a symptom of trauma.
Stored memory. Stored memory in the body.
And if you keep shushing it down, or worse, like shaming yourself, I should know better, I should be this. That's like you psychically putting all these blocks on. You're adding more blocks.
And shaming is like the heaviest of those blocks. Shame and guilt. You know, and you know about the what is it? It's the spectrum, or the
consciousness.
Map of consciousness.
The
emotional frequency spectrum. So each emotion has a vibration, and shame and guilt is on the lower end of that spectrum. And then you've got, as you go up, you have like courage, and you have strength. Love is higher up, and then again you've got like up to the very top, love, joy, peace. Enlightenment is like but love is the transformative one, because it bridges both worlds of the spiritual and the earthly world. And love is the transmuter. It transmutes into peace.
It really does. And it requires a surrender of the mind. Because
it does.
Love,
it's going into
it's an experience, and the mind can conceptualize an experience, but it cannot have an experience.
correct.
The body has the experience, or the body recognizes the information, the codes of the soul, which come through the heart, and then that comes in through the nervous system, flooding the body. And then the mind's like, what the heck is this feeling? And the mind goes all mushy.
Yeah.
Like that's because, it's like a grown-ass man seeing this tiny little teacup poodle and then going, oh, do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing that kind of gets stuck just to hit that feeling that you want, like that you have a deep desire to feel.
Yes.
And it's all the spectrums. We use one word, love, to define how many human experiences.
Yeah.
And it skews so many things.
It skews the interpretation of what love is.
Does.
It so does. And like love can be applied differently to different people, to different things. It's not just for what the Hollywood sense of what love would be the romantic sense.
Yeah, I would say that's been so skewed
massively,
hugely, and I mean, if we wanted to look down a what's the word, a totalitarian type of as though there was some world agenda, let's just say. What a great way to distract away from personal love.
Yeah. What's real?
What are
those? Yeah, it's to confuse people and into believing in this false love that exists, fairy tales. It's highly dramatic. It creates drama in your life.
Yeah, it does.
If you want to attain that, it's like the distraction. The distraction on the wall. Go for that distraction.
Yes.
The real stuff is over here.
Yes.
And we know about it. We don't want you to know about it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it is.
And it's hard to not go, oh, that's the plan. So where's the trajectory in the plan? It's also just like I found that feeds the fear too much.
I know. Yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole of just fear, and then it puts you back into that state we were talking about of like self-defeat and nihilistic.
Yes.
And then if you're in that state, eventually you'll come out of it, right?
Yes.
Which is the big circle of life.
It is. It's bound to happen, and that's where the breaking. It's like how we break. Yeah. Like how do we now that we know that we will eventually end up breaking? Yeah. How are we going to do that? Because we get to choose how we do things. And so for me, I've allowed that space, and this is where a lot of my own personal journey has come back to my bedroom or nature. I just lay on my bed as though I'm being held by the entire universe through the heaviness of it. And it's like, being raised Mormon, I had a hugely strong relationship with the story of the atonement and Christ. Yeah. A very personal and beautiful relationship with that energy. And I can see that as like a parable for how to deal with that heavy darkness or the dark night of the soul, where we feel as though the information that we've been getting in the past maybe has stopped, or that connection that we had has stopped, and we need to walk through a portal alone. And that's that hero's journey where you don't know what's on the other side of it, but you know that you must. And I see these different Disney movies. I know I'm a bit of a Disney princess at heart, but a lot of those Disney movies helped me to also recognize within myself, like that I can maybe go against my family and leave the church, or, even just start to say no to help from different places so that I can start to feel my own edge. Because, I have come from some privilege. I've also experienced major lack and, as well. So having experienced so much of the human spectrum, being able to go, wow, I've always been able to connect back into this sense of soul within myself, no matter where I've been. And that's never been taken from me. Whereas when I was at church, my fear was that exact thing. That was that if I were to leave this, then all the things that I think are safe are no longer available to me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
So like if I take this leap, whatever the leap may be, Moana, she's like, the sea is calling, I can't ignore it anymore,
Yeah.
And then that was the thing that was able to help free her family, but she couldn't do it for her family. She had to do it for
herself. It was her journey.
Yeah.
It's so I can just see you in that depiction of this old archaic way that you were in that world, and I saw it as colors. I saw it as dark black and white colors, and then the moment you chose to get that point of self-discovery, of taking that leap as Moana does in the movie, and going off to the sea, the color comes in. The color vibrates. You want to create. You see the vibrancy of life. It's just amazing to embark on that journey. And then you don't know where it's going to take you, but
well, it's also beautiful because it doesn't matter where it takes you.
That's right, because you're with I think it's like you're with the spark, or the flame is with you. The Christ light.
And it's now moving through all the fear of letting that light shine, so that others feel safe to shine their lights. And I think that's primarily like my vision, is that by me being so thoroughly me, I help other people feel safe to be them, beyond what we've been told is possible about our happiness, because we determine that.
We determine it.
And realizing that the common denominator in my life, and the reason why I've been able to live my life from a place of not always martyrdistic, but it's continually just gotten better. I can't deny that either. That I was the color that brought the color into my life, and that even with all of that black and white that I grew up with, I still I was hardcore yellow. Like everyone in high school knew me as yellow.
What do you mean?
I literally, I have a photo. I'm going to have to put it up on Instagram. But one of the teachers, for year 12, one of the teachers dressed up as me, and I dressed up as her. For a skit kind of thing. A
good relationship then with your teachers.
Fantastic relationship. I was a prefect. I had a lot of fun. And I tried to be as inclusive in high school as possible, heavily bullied in primary school, because I was just like, I am so different. I was not made for the school system. At all. But she dressed up in all yellow. She had sunflowers, glitter, that was how I would present myself.
Oh wow!
Super yellow
and
butterflies.
Yellow is, it's gold. It's the yellow is like life.
Yes.
Yellow is life.
Yeah.
It's like the middle chakra. It's the solar plexus. The sun wants to be. It's summer. It's everything that's about growth and expansion, and it's beautiful.
It is. Thank you. And so it's interesting that you kind of bring that back to that the visceralness of color, because it's so easy to visualize the energy then, which was definitely there, So great perceiving.
I
think that's what's beautiful about connecting on mutuality. And that's what we were sort of saying before, is there's a deeper understanding that can happen where you don't have to explain all the words. And so the beauty of slowing down the pace away from the rat race, right? The beautiful part of that is your nervous system slows down with it. And you realize the real priorities in life. And you realize, well, if my life is this complex, and I've had to go through this much work to get this piece, I so respect other people's peace.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's naturally built is a community of mutual respect. And so you do get a new community a bit, you know.
Yeah, you do. You're creating it.
Yeah.
You're creating a new community. That's huge. Like, that just touched something deep in me when you just said, so thank you. No, but we do respect each other's peace, you know, and being able to share mutual, what did you put it? How did you put it? Mutual commonality or something?
Yeah, something like
that. Yeah.
I can't remember all
You
those
don't remember?
words. No, because I kind of channel a little bit too. Like I just let go.
Yes, that's beautiful. And it's about coming from two mutual positions, and each one is correct in their view of the world, in their experiences. No one's taking that away from one another, because we might see things differently. And this is how conflict begins, when like you don't respect the journey of the other person, what they're going through, experience, and you think that your way of looking at things is the right way because it's only you, but you're not realizing that you're a part of the whole, and the person that you're fighting against is actually part of you. That you should respect, because it's another way of looking at the whole.
That's so true.
So,
and there's so much humbling that comes with that.
Yes.
Because we've been taught so much separation, and we've been taught this, the black and whites of like, oh, who's the victim and who's the villain?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, well, now we need a hero, but you're all of them. Yeah,
and that's the key. That's the key with all the movies, you know, all the films that we watch, the Disney,
So
going back to Disney.
Yeah.
You know, it shows us so much. Disney is great because it shows us things like the hero's journey, things like good and evil, things like all these themes that are inherent in our reality. But the underlying ability to transcend that reality, which is ultimate, you know, it doesn't have a beginning or an ending.
Yes.
You know, it's just, it is. And it's that Christ consciousness, you know, you can put it, you can, there's so many ways of explaining. It's the Tao. It's
I like isness. I say
yeah.
isness. It just is like, and I think that's one of the things, like going into that third eye experience, which was spontaneous, and Kundalini, I've realized now too, now that I've learned a little bit more about Kundalini. Going into that, I was major conspiracy theorist and scared, but I also had this really polarizing faith in humanity, and I have always had that. And so I was curious. That's where the two contrasting, that cognitive dissonance came to curiosity. It had to evolve to curiosity in order for me to open. And it was the opening that made me, the third eye made me look at the pace of my life and how I couldn't have rushed to be where I was, because I only got to where I was by doing the last thing. And to then realize, okay, I now need to honor the pace of other people's lives. What does that look like as a healer? Couldn't recognize it, so had to pull back from healing. And in the whole grand scheme of things, like analyzing what it is we think that we're meant to be doing here and taking labels away from it, and just acknowledging that whatever the divine intelligence of our own being is, that if we try not to force it into certain ways, it will naturally unfold. And then we're working with the pace of nature, which is of the earth, which means we're then, you know, and I think people have called this so many different things, but I think that it's just a simplicity of the human experience that we've now taken for granted and we call a miracle or magic. But it's just that divine connectedness with Mother, with the Creator. Yeah, and also with time, Father, like a structure of there's a beginning of life and an end of life. Yeah. And we have to be accountable to both of those. Yeah. And all the in between. You know. So true. And like, even though, yes, we can deconstruct a lot of the BS from the Western society kind of thing, a lot of the lies and illusions that are mentally projected onto our reality that we're also subscribing to and saying yes to by our complicit, where we're placing our energy. Correct. Yeah. Which is divine. I mean, that's God-given, if you would. Like, that's divine animation. What are we using our fluids on? Our sweat, you know, like our tears, what are we feeding with our energy?
Yeah.
Our money. Where are our priorities, and how closely are we living to those, and how much anxiety do we have in our bodies?
And that's those are the signs. Like that everything has a purpose. The anxiety that you feel, the tightness in the chest, all these are like there's your body's intelligence telling you that this is not for you. This life that you're living, the way you're thinking, the decisions you're making is
The
not
motivations,
the motivations, all of this structure that you're doing, because, and I say you're doing because we're all doing it for ourselves. Is telling you, okay, abort mission, or go the other way. Try option B. Try something different. And then you will get the biofeedback to tell you, is this conducive to a better feeling? Am I feeling better? Okay, this is more my path. This is in line with where nature is intending me to go. We're pushing against the grain. It's like when you're pushing against something, you don't see the fish swimming against the current. Well, I mean salmon, but
that's also highly instinctual for them. It's seasonal. It's
seasonal, So you're going against the flow of the river, but then as soon as you release that the resistance, as soon as you release it, you just flow. Everything flows.
That's it. And that was really like when I hit my most traumatic experience. That was the information that came. It's like, I'm going to break, mother. I was in the ocean. I'm going to break, mother. It's like, no, you've done that before. There's another way. It's like, okay, well, tell me. It's just lay your head back and float. And then there was bliss at a time where I was hitting my most, the worst part of being a mother, or the fears were right in front of me. And I was experiencing some of them. And not all of them, thank goodness. But some of them that were too painful to my children for a mother to witness. And, when you come to that, there is nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do here. I have to surrender my children's lives and their experiences to this divine intelligence that I've had to learn how to trust myself. And I've got to trust that each of my children will catch themselves at their own pace and time. And that's hard, coming from a system that was so structured and not knowing how to structure my children's future. And then having to be taught by my teenage children whilst they're going through mental health struggles what gentle parenting is all about. And oh my goodness, this is revolutionary. How did I not think of this? Listening to the individual, who would have thought? And so the humbling that was required for that. And for me to also then offer, hey, at any point in the future, if you need to deconstruct any part of my parenting, any of my choices as an adult that impacted you as a child, please know I'm here for it. Because that is the benefit of the evolution of humanity. I see parents not willing,
to do that.
My own personal parents, struggling to witness their own shadow and the impact that their choices had made as non-beneficial to the evolution of humanity. If we can't deconstruct some of these things, I could pass on so much more. And so for me now, initiating that break with my parents, as confronting as that is as someone who deeply values connection, it's also that precipice of alone that each person and soul needs to move through. I need to be able to determine my own light, not just because I've inherited it from my family, as brilliant as they are, and they are in so many ways. But I've also got me, and I've held me the whole time, and I'm here now, and I'm the only one who can really choose my choices. So I need to choose all the ones that I've made to here so that I have power to make more.
Yep. You're the captain of your ship.
Captain of the ship.
Yeah,
because there's no fight. There's no fighting. It doesn't have to be a fight anymore. Like, you know, I'm not battling some big demon. I'm riding the dragon.
Mm.
You know,
Love that. Riding the dragon.
not slaying them.
Yeah.
They are our slay.
Yeah.
We can ride them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Dragons are with us. Dragons are always there, waiting to be ridden. If you can handle the energy of life, because they're infinite. And they come. Anyway, we're going way
I just
cosmic.
said dragons.
You said dragons,
Keywords.
and I'm just riding that wave. But
well, maybe that's another conversation.
It's another conversation indeed. But that's wonderful, the way you explained your parents, your upbringing, and how you value and cherish that what they did to make you in the sense of, you know, they raised you, they gave you tools that you needed, but when you come back to self and you realize you're the captain of your ship, you start creating and exploring and creating your own destiny.
Yeah.
In creating a family of your own, and choosing what that looks like, you know, conscious parenting. Did you say conscious parenting? You didn't say conscious parenting. You said
I said gentle parenting, but I would actually probably prefer I like conscious parenting, because as someone who I like the idea of gentle parenting, but I got there through conscious parenting. Yeah. So they were asking for gentleness, and I was like, well, I just need to be accountable to my actions and my impact. What's the impact? Yes. And I'm like, the impact is too much for me to be okay with anymore.
Yes.
You know, to turn a blind eye and avoid it.
And that's what's needed. That's why the gentle parenting is so important right now as a collective, because that's what's needed in collective reality, like for people.
Yes.
We've come from that harsh parenting style. We've come from those families of just empirical, you know, do as I say. Yes. You know, teacher-student relationship, master-slave. That doesn't serve us anymore. And so the seed coming through now, the children coming through now, they're telling us no. They're actually saying that's not the way anymore.
So strong.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Gentle is the way.
Yes.
For now.
Yes.
They may change too.
And times and seasons, right? And it's essential.
It's so essential. And that's the bringing back to mother. That's like, I sort of wanted to raise that before, I don't know when,
yes.
but bringing back to mother right now is so important, because recognizing the woman and the divinity of the woman, because she's the embodiment of mother consciousness, and she can give birth. And so we have to honor that, because it's returning home. It's returning to that warm place that we come from. And it's needed in society as a collective, you know, on all levels, personal and wider, global. So
it all becomes systemic. Like, I can see it becoming systemic, even in the school system. Like, because my children have gone through the school system as much as I so desired to homeschool them. I wasn't the only one with all these choices, you know. Yeah, sure. You did the best with what you had. Exactly. Yeah. And also understanding like the impact that the school system is having on them. But now realizing, like, even just yesterday, having a conversation with an inclusion case manager, you know, and rewriting a lot of these academic plans and learning plans to be with different language, and, you know, being able to talk to them about the frequency of words and how that impacts the individual, you know, and that kind of thing. And to have it heard and acknowledged, and also
in the schooling system.
Like literally at the state school down the
road. Wow, that's incredible. Where we've come from.
Right. And within the last 5 years, I would say it's accelerated exceptionally.
Has it really?
Exceptionally.
Wow, that's fantastic. I certainly didn't see that growing up.
Well, no, and this particular one of my children is also, like, you know, in leadership, heavy in leadership, and is very good at leadership, but wasn't built for the old structure of the school system. he's been able to self-advocate and trust in his own little spark to be able to go into these positions of leadership with confidence, you know, like from a place of high anxiety.
Wow.
And really to witness his own evolution in that. I mean, nothing more fulfilling as a parent than witness their kid choose their life, and then witness that feedback themselves, and to see people coming around them that honor their sensitivities. I'm like, oh, dude, parenting wins.
Yeah, massive.
But it's also, it wasn't
proud.
me, it was him who chose it.
He
so
chose
I can't
it.
actually
You can't take credit. No, you can't take credit. But at the same time, you can, because
I know what I did.
You gave the breeding ground. You were the pot for him to grow in, and you gave that fertile soil.
Yeah.
So well done to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's huge. And good on, what's his name? Aston. Oh, cherish Aston. That's fantastic. And you said he overcame anxiety.
Major. And I think it's not even an overcoming, it's an understanding of like, how do we use it?
Totally. That reminds me of like my own experience, because I had massive anxiety, GAD, and like other social anxiety and that sort of thing. And I only became cognizant of it once I was told.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, what even is anxiety?
Once I was told. Like I thought, anxiety and depression and other bipolar and like all these other conditions, I just thought that was for other people.
Totally.
And then it hit home really hard when I found out. Like I went to a counselor or a psychologist, and they said, oh no, it was even before. It was like one of those like tests that they do at the GP, and it's like, you're probably suffering from anxiety. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they actually diagnosed me with something, and you've had it for your pretty much your whole life. Like, that explains so much.
So much.
And then then I started the journey of unpacking and working with what it is that debilitates me, and why when I operate, if I'm operating from that state, okay, yes, it can get me to do things, but is it giving me the best outcome?
Nice.
You know, is it what's the impact? Yeah. How am I talking to people? How am I respecting them? Am I just using them as a means to an end?
Yes.
Or am I actually respecting who they are, their essence? And it was huge, that process. A massive one for me was meditation.
Yes.
Like I went into deep meditation. I did Vipassana. So I was in that frame of mind, and that really unlocked. I basically, coming out of Vipassana, I didn't even experience any anxiety.
That's it.
For years.
See, I wanted to do that so much, but I think you've got to do a 10-day stint.
10-day,
before you do a 3-day, and getting the time away from responsibilities to do that is like,
it's hard. It's so
but
worth it.
But it's definitely something that's going to happen for me.
Yeah, awesome.
And no doubt I'll do a podcast on that too.
Yeah, that'd be good. Your experience coming out.
Yeah.
It's so insightful. It's clear insight. That's what Vipassana is.
Yeah.
Clear insight meditation.
Because it's non-verbal. You're not talking to anyone really.
Yeah. So it's a total 10 days of no speech.
Could you imagine me doing it? That's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
It's healing. It's huge. And then when you come out, you give so much respect for speech. So it's noble speech. It becomes, that's the Buddhist teaching, is that there's noble speech through no speech.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and
like playing with the energetics of that. Yeah,
exactly. And then noble, so everything happens from a thought. So it's right thought, right speech, right action. And then so noble, so it all comes back to thinking, because when you're in meditation, you're thinking, right? And you slow down the thinking mind, and you're actually witnessing the thoughts. And then you witness the thoughts manifesting into speech, which manifest into action and creation. And so when you drop back into that nothingness, that emptiness, which is what Buddhism teaches you, emptiness of the mind, where everything comes from, it's the void, then you actually create, and then you choose what you're creating. Most of what we create, we don't choose it. or we think we're in control, but we're actually under a spell of some kind, and we're just on autopilot, and it's just coming out. But then when you tap into that divinity, the divinity of self and the higher consciousness, then you actually go, okay, is what I'm saying, what effect is it having, what impact? And I can say it's noble now. Of noble speech, of noble action. Yeah. And that's aligning yourself.
Noble as in knowable, like an embodied.
A good way of viewing it. Yeah. Wordplay. I
think wordplay is essential for breaking spells.
Spelling. We're spelling. Exactly. Yeah. That's decoding. What you're doing is decoding. Yeah. And alchemy is that. So I love getting into that topic too. But
but I think, going, well, is that word really noble? Is that really the word that I'm wanting to use to explain how I'm feeling or the thought that I'm having?
Possibly not.
Yeah. And that's like deciphering the word and decoding the word helps you with that noble speech of like, well, or like, Don Miguel Ruiz, like, being impeccable with your word. That's the first agreement.
Yes. Yep.
It's because it's what starts to bridge a gap between the mental realm, like a 4D type realm, and the 3D realm, because it's now coming into the ears of people and into the minds of people, and it creates then a chemical reaction in a person, and so all of that is impact. And so understanding the word and then aligning your understanding of the words you're choosing with that nobility of heart, and the discipline that you've created in that whole process.
Yeah, it's profound.
It is.
And the Bible talks about it, the logos.
Yes.
The word.
Yes, the word.
First there was the word.
Yes, and the word is God.
And the word is God.
Yeah. The word creates. I think maybe that's the best place to just stop. But maybe we have another conversation.
That was good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kimon.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless you.
You too. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you have to say. If you've got any contacts for Kimon.
Okay.
I can get, if you send them to me,
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well done.
Thanks for joining us. See you later.
Bye.
And see, this is the part where I'm like, I wish I edited.
Can you just click that?
Oh, yeah, stop recording. There we go.